Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a series of episodes talking about collections and how people's collections have grown and what we've got in everyone's sort of different collections. So before we begin, I want to remind everyone to go down below, click like, and click subscribe. And again, if you want to see more episodes of this particular type of content, you can always leave comments and that kind of stuff and tell me about things that are in your collection. And if you'd like to support me, I also do have the links for the super thanks below, as well as the links for PayPal and Patreon, where I'm releasing different episodes and that kind of stuff, special content for those particular subscribers. And thank you for your support. All right. So, and again, today's episode, I'm going to start a very series of episodes talking about people's collections and things like that. And there's many different people in my anime club. This is a group around us that has different types of collections, and I'm going to go through and sort of go over how they've collected so many different things, what they've done, special things that are in their collections. And in today's episode, I'm going to get into an interview with Troy, and we're going to go and talk about people's collections, and of course go into detail about his collection of anime stuff. And we'll have some pictures of what his room looks like and whatnot. So without further delay, let's begin.
There are collectors out there with some pretty amazing collections, whether it's board games, toys, action figures. There's still the coin collectors out there, the stamp guys, definitely the antique guys, because you see auctions going on all the time. But there are people with amazing collections, and I'll start off with my first recollection, getting into, I guess, the collecting aspect when I was about 5 or 6 years old, going down to the pharmacy where I used to collect comics on a rack, and my very first comic book was Man Thing number 4, and I always treasured that. I lost it, but it really set a tone. And then after that, my brothers and us would be collecting comics and toys, G.I. Joes, Transformers, He-Man. Those were in the 80s. And some stuff in the 70s where I grew up, trying to get the Mego dolls, which were expensive back in the day.
And let's just, add my little story here. It's like, Troy mentions that the first comic that he sort of remembers buying was, Man Thing. And again, I'm pretty much the same way. I remember I was like, a little kid. I didn't have like, pocket money or whatever. I never got really like an allowance per se the word. But whenever we went out shopping, and we're, buying groceries or whatever from like, let's say the Safeway or went to the drugstore like Shoppers Drug Mart or something like that, or London Drugs, and the parents would buy all the stuff and they'd throw it onto the conveyor belt for the checkout person to do. And always right by the checkout stand is usually these small comics, usually like Archie comics and Archie digests, like that kind of thing. So they're really small little pocket books that have like a whole pile of Archie, compiled Archie comics into the thing. And I remember once in a while I'd always like grab one and just throw it into the pile, and and the parents usually don't complain too much, because at the time they're only like 50 cents or 75 cents, which wasn't a lot of money, and and you do it once in a while, they don't really bother you too much about it, and they let me buy like a whole pile of them, and I still have very much a large collection of those RG comics and that kind of stuff in my collection. But one section that always intrigued me was usually at the magazine section of the racks. Okay, where all the People's Magazine and TV Times and all the gossip stuff, Life Magazine, that kind of stuff. They'll have a small section of like graphic novel slash magazine kind of comics, right? And at the time, the big names were things like Mad Magazine or Conan the Barbarian, things like that were the big key sort of things that were in there. Heavy Metal magazine is the other one that sort of kind of comes to mind right now. Um, and I'd always love to flip through the Conans and that kind of stuff because I was really into that kind of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. The Conan movie had a really big influence on me as well. But I think one of my first diversions away from the Archie comics and that kind of stuff and into Marvel, DC universe type of thing like that was actually I remember seeing and have the digest, like sort of digest form of the Sergeant Rock versus Superman digest comic, and I remember that's sort of the first comic that I kind of got that wasn't like an Archie comic, right? And sure, it's about the same price, and that kind of stuff was like $1 or something or whatever for that volume, and so I picked that up. And I just loved the story on that. And I think that really kind of was the first time I really got really into all the other alternate stories that comics provided. Okay, and so that was sort of my beginning into getting into comics.
Is that, so starting off with Heroes, and like I said, Fran at Hobby Hut, then Dennis or Mike at Breakaway, and now Ivan downtown in Abbotsford. Where now you guys are very lucky that you have like a Toy Traders, a Constant Collectibles, a Krypton Toys, a whatever and the hobby stores too. There's still a ton of not just Gundam collectors around. There's still people who are doing the trains, the planes, the RC cars, the model kit cars. And the Neitherworld Collectibles who address the horror people. It just keeps going on. I know we're talking shops first, but then we'll get into these other people who we met. But we're trying to give you a basis of where we've been. Big Bill's in Langley. Big Bill's now gone, but his shop was there for a long time. Now, Pastime Sports took it over. Now they've got a new building, and that building is now no more. But the joy of it, and also what you guys now have the joy of the internet, is to be able to meet people who have collections. We'll talk about those people. But the story that comes to my mind, I went out and purchased some Sailor Moon items out of Port Coquitlam, and this lady's stuff was meticulous. Her shelving, and this is in her garage, okay? Shelving, the toys, whatever, the 1980s toys, the girls' toys, the boys' toys. It's incredible. And some of the display cases that people actually have to display their items and how they display, whether it's their comics, their Gundams, you name it. Like I said, running into the older generation with the antiques, their displays, like whatever they collected, whether it was coins or stamps or, some kind of kitchenware or whatever it was, that porcelain stuff. Can't remember what it was called, but all chalkware, that's what I'm thinking of. It's just incredible. And I don't know what it is about human beings in a sense that when we get that bug, and I call it that bug, for collecting. Now, some of our stuff will raise in price and some of it won't. We didn't get into it to, I'm going to make money on this. We got into it for the love and the joy of the toys.
At this point, I'd like to mention that, although IKEA is not a sponsor, but, back in the day, that's what we used. I remember when I was starting to do a lot of figure collecting in the early 2000s there. One of the first places we went to was IKEA, and they carried this nice sort of glass display case, nice and small. It was wall mounted, and it had these sliding glass doors on it, and was able to put my figurines and that kind of stuff into them, and just sort of and lay it up. And I have some pictures here of my New Year's party from 2004. And you can see it hanging on the wall there, and you can see some of the figures and that kind of stuff showing from 2004. Now, of course, what it ended up happening is that as more that I got into the hobby of collecting figures and that kind of stuff, the figures got bigger and bigger, and the scale got bigger. So then, therefore, I had to get a bigger case. And again, going back to IKEA again, they have these big tall glass displayers, and I then started using some of these things. At one time, I had actually three of these things full of figures and whatnot, and statues and that kind of stuff in them. I've since then, as shown here, I've downgraded it a little bit down to two now, and my wife has taken over the other one with all her collectible sort of English china and all these sort of specialty porcelain teapots and tea sets. So that's what her favorite thing is. So here have a collections of things on display in our living room there. So definitely, when we start collecting different type of things, we have this almost notion to put it on display. Kind of to find something nice to show off these collections of type of things, which is kind of really different because I said, my wife is not normally this kind of a collector. She's more of a utilitarian type of person. But definitely, when something's really nice and comes sort of in flavor, that's sort of one of the things that I got really interested in is being able to collect some of this this china and porcelain.
Getting into the 90s, where, my collection was starting to grow, and I fell in love with Sailor Moon and would take trips out to Vancouver, or like Will was saying, we'd meet somebody at an event. And one of the people I met was Eddie's son.
Yeah, Eddie, Fast Eddie. Yeah.
Fast Eddie. Eddie had a shop down near Oddline, but then Eddie invited me over a few times to his place, and we became friends. And Eddie had just just an immaculate collection, but a very eclectic collection. His Transformers he really loves, video games he really loves, comics he really loves, anime, and his Lego. His Lego impressed me too. And if you ever get to see anybody's Lego collection, especially the old timers with the old sets, the space sets, the Aqua sets, amazing compared to what we have now. We have BrickCon as well on top of it, which everybody can bring their builds there, which is beautiful. And so I remember meeting Eddie and selling me some items, and that was great. And over the years, just had a friendship, and we've done a lot of movies. And I think that was is the joy of collecting, is meeting these different individuals, like going and meeting Will first as well. I'm going to mention this. We lived way out in Abbotsford in the valley, but we've heard about Animage and I, where we can go rent videos and we can, possibly buy merchandise, because it was very not much back in those days, unless you had to go out to Richmond, and you had to bus out to Richmond, okay, or you had to bus out to Vancouver. And there, in the mid '90s, there was a small odd Chinatown shop you got the odd cool piece out of, but it was meeting these people like Eddie, very friendly, very giving. But just the passion they have for collecting.
Just like as Troy says, as we're going through, parts of his collection here, and his a little bit pictures of his Sailor Moon shrine that he created. The same way with my wife is that she wasn't really much into collecting anything. I mean, she's not even interested in anime in general. Just because being in China, they don't really show too much in the way of Japanese things, because they're really against against Japan, right? But the notion that you can start from nothing, and that she built her collection of things that she really enjoyed, and that she really likes things like pottery and fancy sort of British china and teapots and that kind of stuff. And so she's taken over one of my displays of to display all her glassware, and has these nice displays built out for all her stuff. And so even as I said, you're a person just can get into collecting, and they like to show off their collections, even just not being one of those type of people.
Meeting these, and then I met Stan Hyde from Monster Tag Team. So Stan's an OG collector. He's an old Godzilla collector from with kits, and they made their own kits back in the day, and they bought kits, whether it was in Japan or because of his schooling, he could go out to England and go to a toy shop there. The beauty with Stan was him and his wife, long time married. She had her kitchenware stuff. She loved her kitchen, and he had his books and toys. But there was a balance. There was that loving balance of these collections and these individuals that just, to my very day, that I'm so grateful that I know these people. Just to quickly describe Stan's, just to give you kind of a visual in the head there, the kitchen's all full of, Kate's kitchenware. Unfortunately, Mrs. Kate has passed on to the great collectors in the sky. But then you go into the living room and it's just books, and there's the chairs to sit on, the big TV to watch, the 50s films or Godzilla or some fantasy film or Ghibli film. But, signed pictures of Godzilla actors, model kits. And nobody went upstairs, and that's their private stuff, and we'll leave that alone. But going down to the basement, it's all videos and DVDs, and then these 4 rooms are Stan's work area or display of model kits, every anime type figure or whatever, pocket books, going back, books in a station where he builds his, model kits and helped me and various other people build certain kits that I didn't have the ability to do. But knowing these people and when we lose these people, and this goes to that generation too, or the antique collectors, we call them oddballs, but the stories that they have and the ability that they had the nose, in the sense to go out to other people's places and hunt for those treasures, but also make friends. Again, I'm going back to this whole friendship. Again, me and Will at Anime Janai, we just clicked. It was amazing. And I remember Will coming out, I purchased this 20-inch Sailor Venus doll. I purchased another one, different version in Richmond, but I was so proud bringing her home and displaying her. And now recently Will gave me the Sailor Moon figure, and have her in a display case. I believe it was my dad's display case, so it's beautiful. A little redwood display case with 2 shelves, and I have I call them the 3 sisters. And the funny story is, before I got the Moon one, the one Will gave me, unfortunately, I had lifted her out of a box. Her head popped off somehow. But through another lady I knew, Gigi, she's big into slam dunk, was able to repair her. No problem. And that's the beauty of today, because we have the ability to 3D print. We now have this experience through Stan and everybody down the road here who are model kit builders and who know how to repair things and paint and, doing that detail. And I think that's what's so beautiful as a collector right now. You have the ability, if something's broken, you can fix it. Back in the day when it was broken. My brother's Trailbreaker, broken.
Troy brings up the topic of the ability to now do repairs and make and fix collectible items and make them reusable again. One of the examples that I have from my personal experiences is that I made an entire village set using the Limax collectible village figures, right? So basically they're like ceramic houses, Christmas decorations and that kind of stuff, and they're all supposed to be part in scale with this another village with people and everything like that. When I was working in the as the return to vendor clerk, we'd always get defective units where the lights didn't work, or the unit motor gave out, or there's a small crack in it or something like that, right? And I was always able to get those things at really discounted prices, because of the defects that are in them. But then what it is, I would take them and I would do the necessary repairs, replace them with LED lights, or maybe swap out a motor with a different kind of toy motor or something, or just use it as just a standard display. Just maybe it was a Ferris wheel, but the Ferris wheel didn't actually work. But decoratively speaking, is a very still a nice piece with working lights and that kind of stuff. So it's just a stationary like Ferris wheel type of thing, right? And so just back in the 2020 was when I built this huge, sort of a collection of my, Christmas Limax toys with my son's Lego City toy, the city collecting set where they have all these different trains, and took all his trains, Lego train set and the city Lego set, combined it with the Limax Christmas village, and made this massive village that covered the the living room floor. And I actually even mounted a camera on the Lego train and had to go through the village, so as if you were basically riding on the train, going through this Christmas village. And this is just an example of making use of something that was technically quote broken or defective or not quite working right, but still having the technology and having the bits and pieces and having the knowledge and the resourcefulness to make it and work it into something. And that is something that it maybe a little bit with the advance of technology has really brought more creativity and more resourcefulness out of people to be able to do these type of things. And I think that's one thing that allows us to in my case bond better with my son, and bring his hobby of Lego and that kind of stuff into a great sort of Christmas tradition.
And this is sort of a start on this long series of different episodes. We're going to cover people's collections and that kind of stuff. Okay, maybe in the next episode I'll go and work on the music on the lower half here, which is all the Japanese artists and that kind of stuff, and different bands and that kind of stuff that I followed and whatnot. Okay, so until next time, I will see you again.